Hello, welcome to LifeTalk. I'm Mark Crutcher, and joining me as usual is my trusty sidekick, Renee Hobbs. Hello, Renee.
Hello.
We also need to make an announcement here. Carol has been off for a few weeks now because of problems with her mother. As it turns out, she's going to have to be taking care of her for a while, so she won't be back. And joining us for the next few weeks will be Pastor Stephen Broden from Dallas. Hello, Stephen. How are you?
Good to be with you.
Nice to have you with us, sir. All right. We've had a neat little event happen here. You know, we've been going to the, or not we, but you guys and L.E.A.R.N. and Johnny and Clenard and everybody have been putting teams together going to the NAACP conventions for several years in a row now. And we've been providing MAAFAs and some other materials. And we talked a couple of weeks ago about this new Black Lives Matter card that we've come out with, and of course you've used them.
Yes, excellent card. I love the format. It's easy to put in the hands of people. They can take it with them, and it's not clumsy. It's really kind of
The message is quick
nice
to read, and it's pretty powerful.
It's very powerful.
Very powerful message. Well, anyway, we gave several thousand of them to Johnny Hunter and Clenard Childress from L.E.A.R.N., and they put together a team to go to the NAACP convention and hand them out there, and got some pretty good response. Matter of fact, it's still going on today, is my understanding. Been getting some good response. And joining us now from New Jersey is Pastor Clenard Childress. Hello, Clenard. How are you, sir?
Oh, doing great, and good to be with you again.
Well, thank you for joining us again. And you're here with Renee Hobbs, of course. And
Hello.
I think you know this outlaw that's standing beside me here, Stephen Broden. I think you're familiar with him.
Yes, on the most wanted list of Homeland Security. We all know.
Right.
We call him one of the usual suspects. So he's definitely one of the usual suspects. Well, anyway, he's here with us. The cards that we gave you guys, you started handing out. What kind of response were you getting? And do you see any change in the attitude of the people that are going to the NAACP over the years that we've been doing this?
Once again, it grows every year, but this year it was a little bit more on the radar. And I think a lot of that had to do with the revelations, David DeLeon putting Planned Parenthood at least on the burner, where people would begin to have a more open ear to information. I've never seen so many people thank us for being out there. Now, we've had people thank us before, but this time there were far more delegates giving us an affirmation. But yet, this was the first time the NAACP, I think since Kansas City, and that was a few years back, actually called the police on us and wanted us removed. And one of the reasons why, most of the people came in from the Elm Street side, where we had our Black Lives Matters 12 by 4 foot sign from our All Black Lives Matters project. CBR helped us to design and gave some insight, and it was a mutual project. And people who refused our literature, those who were angry at us for being there, walked by the sign and stared. So if they didn't take our material, they still had the image of Black Lives Matters born and unborn.
Right.
So it was extremely fruitful. One lady said, "How many of those cards do you have left?" I said, "Well, listen, I have a few. I'm having a conference in," she was from Arkansas, and she said it's an AME conference, and I'm heading it, and I want to pass these out. So there was far more affirmation. People actually stopped and talked to us for a long time. Usually the NAACP gets them to ignore us. I think that kind of enraged the joint board or the staff or the facilitators of the event. And we had as many police officers come out for us as they did Hillary Clinton the day before. So it was quite engaging, and I'm just so grateful for being able to have that card to place right in their hand. People were putting it in their wallets, their pocketbooks, to make sure they don't lose them, because I said, "Now, don't lose that. It's a very important information." And it was far more cordial, I have to say, far more cordial this time than any other time I've been out there.
You know what my suspicion is? My suspicion is that the rank and file members of the NAACP are quite a bit different than the leaders of the NAACP. And this very often...
That's absolutely true, yes.
You think it is?
No question about that.
You think that's a true statement?
Absolutely. Anyone who actually engages them, intermingles with the delegates, you'll find that it's like opposite sides of the pole. So this is what encourages me to continue to do this. And one gentleman from San Diego said, "We're with you. we are trying to find out how to go about this where there's not that much of a breach. And he happened to know Walter Hoy. So we had a great conversation, and he said, we really appreciate what you're doing. So it seems like with some of the delegates, it's actually getting more serious that, wait a minute, listen, we need to talk. We need to have this discussion.
Clenard, Pastor Broughton here. Talk to us about your goals, your mission for this activity. What are you looking to have done as a result of you being out there for so many years?
Life Education and Resource Network. We have not really developed the network we need to have. I believe each leader knows what they do in their own region about communicating their message. They just need the information. They need the camaraderie and the bond that they can have to let them to know that other people are also engaged doing this work. So we are trying to find key people, network with them, be a part of their strategy for their neighborhood. See, what you do in New Jersey, you don't have to do the same in Texas. It's different regionally. And so we are attempting to let them to know that we are a network that's growing. You had Angela Minter there from Kentucky. You had Walter Moss there from Canton. You had Johnny Hunter from Durham. And you had CBR from California. Okay? So we are growing. We are going to continue our networking in an attempt to aid and abet each other's vision for their area. And I love covert action. We get kicked out because I have our Stop Funding Racism shirts, but Voice of the Voiceless, they didn't know what that meant. And so Angela Minter was able actually to go inside.
Well, I was going to ask about
pass
that.
out material and not get kicked out.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Johnny told me that not only did she get to go inside the convention, that they actually stopped traffic, the police stopped traffic to let her and her people go in.
I think Johnny got to go in too, though.
Yeah, I think Johnny got to go in too as well. He kind of sneaked in.
The gates were open, and so that's fantastic. Because as I told you, we had 9 to 12 officers come down to remove us, and that was unprecedented. Which meant it was having an impact.
That's right.
On the inside, and I just thought that was great. And of course, your flashing lights and police presence only brought more attention to our display.
Really?
Well, that's right. You know, very often we'll hear from some pro-life groups saying, well, we tried to do X or something in our community, and man, it just exploded, man. People were mad at us and angry and raising a ruckus with us and threatening us, and we don't know if this is a good idea or not. And that proves it was a good idea. And like in your situation, Clenard, with you and Johnny and Angela and all the rest of you that were there, the worst thing that could have happened is they just totally ignore you.
Thank you. And I want to say to your audience, we are in dark times. I am noticing more and more people are clinging to ideology and ignoring the facts. That's scary. Normally, in the beginning of a conversation, if you could start showing the facts, the statistics, that causes them to calm down, get your attention, and you can have a discussion. On these college campuses, and even at NAACP with some, it was like, don't give me the facts, you'll just confuse me type thing. I have an ideology. I have a position on this. But it's not based on facts. And it's scary. I hate to say it's scary that if we don't keep doing what we're doing, that will become more pervasive. People are picking sides not based on sociological facts, but on ideology and political correctness.
That's correct.
We're in dangerous times. I think to be in the public square right now is crucial. I don't think we have a choice not to be. And we just need to be diligent. And as you say, if indeed we lose the country, well, it will not be because we did not give it our most valiant effort.
Right. And that's all God expects from us.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
We do have that responsibility. And we're going to continue. I don't know about you, Clenard. I have my feelings that I know about you, but each one has to make their own minds. I'm not quitting. Renee's not quitting. We have this conversation on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I don't think even Stephen here is going to quit. You know, he's going to keep fighting. We're all going to fight.
We're in it for the long haul.
We're in it for the long haul. And the good news is that we're winning, and the proof of that is that they don't ignore us. If the time
Thank
ever
you.
comes that we start showing up at these events, or we put out materials like this, or we put out a Maafa 21, and everybody just kind of shrugs their shoulders, that's when we're in trouble. But
You're right.
as long as
You're right.
as long as we're churning up the waters, we're winning.
Yes.
That's a
Yes,
fact.
and I thank God each day that people are still moved by conscience to a certain degree. You can do nothing against the truth, but if you do not preach the truth or share the truth or be willing to counsel the truth, you're going to allow this stronghold of political correctness and ideology take root, affect your children, affect every institution. Now I see more so, even though I've been a preacher for a long time, why there's power in the spoken truth and the visual truth. Right now, all we have is the truth. That's our strongest weapon, but we cannot sit on the truth. We must share the truth more so now than ever before, because we will be living in a totally crazy, it's crazy enough as it is, it will grow worse and worse. So pro-lifers, I believe we are this nation's salvation. We must unquestionably step it up another notch and engage, or else
Absolutely.
Right.
we will lose the country.
And do it right now. The time is urgent. And,
Absolutely.
the darkness is pervasive, and it's happening
Yes.
not only in terms of what's going on with abortion, but also in other areas of sociology and our culture. And our children are at stake right now because the ideology and the philosophies that are governing our culture right now are dangerous for them.
Everybody's concerned with violence. Remember, the most violent act is abortion.
Yeah.
And when you condone the most violent, savage act, that is going to affect the mindset and the psyche of a generation
Yes.
who does not reverence the sanctity of life. So you can do just about anything when you don't have the sanctity of life at the core of your moral fiber. We're the only movement that talks about specifically the sanctity of life. And now we're realizing for the sanity of a culture, we must project and preach the sanctity of life. We've been violating it.
Amen.
And we have sown to the wind, and we are now reaping the whirlwind. Pro-life activism is the only thing that's going to turn this nation around. I truly believe that.
You're absolutely 100% right. I think Renee and I have had this conversation around here all the time, that if you back up all of the confrontations that we're having as a nation, where we no longer just disagree with our fellow Americans, we hate them.
Right.
This is a struggle to the death. All of this began January 22nd, 1973. I can remember when I was a fairly young person and was becoming involved in the world and knowing what was going on in the world and watched politics. You could have politicians, a Democrat versus a Republican, where they were vehemently opposed to each other. But the second that the debate was over, or whatever, the vote was taken on a bill or something, they were friends again. They were Americans, and they could coalesce with each other. And you didn't have the kind of acrimony and really hatred that you have nowadays, where that is no longer possible. You know, I remember, for all his warts, and Lord knows they were many, Richard Nixon. You know, there's a lot of people that think he won the 1960 election against Kennedy. That election was razor sharp, and there was a lot of voter fraud that went to Kennedy. Not that Kennedy had anything to do with it, but there was voter fraud in certain places around the country, and especially in Chicago, I remember. And there was a legitimate argument that Nixon's people said he could have challenged that election, demanded a recount in Chicago and in parts of Texas even, and that he probably would have won that election. But Nixon said, look, me winning that election is not as important as maintaining the integrity of the American electoral system. The world looks to us and says, there's the way a democracy is supposed to work. If we now come back and say, well, this election was stolen for the President of the United States, it's going to destroy that, so we're not going to go forward with that. So even a guy that with questionable morals and questionable character like Richard Nixon, he had enough character to say, I'm not going to do that because the system is more important than me being President of the United States, and he backed off. We don't have that sort of thing.
It was right there.
We don't have that anymore. We don't have people like that anymore. And I'm telling you,
Scorched earth. I mean,
It
that's-
is.
They're destroying everything and anybody
right,
to win their position.
right. You're fixing to see that next week with the Democratic convention. You wait and see how nasty that gets and how nasty this election cycle gets. And part of it will be part of the result of Trump, and some of it will be Clinton. But the fact is, this is not an election in which here's a woman running that I oppose, and here's a man running that I oppose or I support or whatever. These are people that this person hates this person, and vice versa.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
But we're never going to turn this around. We're never going to return civility to this nation as long as we butcher 3,000 babies a day. It's not going to happen. We're fooling ourselves. We're living in a fool's paradise if we think that will ever happen again, as long as we're doing this.
I think the church leaders especially, have to step back and connect the dots, as you already have, right to January 22nd, 1973. This has been an increasing issue, problem, wave of insanity since then. And once again, all law is predicated on the sanctity of life. Well, we don't have that. We are now really seeing the true seeds of this in our society.
Right.
And we're the only ones that can reverse it. People that don't see it don't have the sense of urgency.
Right.
We see it, so therefore the mantle is on us to take it to the best we can, do the best we can with what we're given, and pray that God honor our efforts.
And he will.
Yes.
We may not see it, but he will. At some point, he will honor that. So, well, anyway, Clenard, thanks for joining us. And I know you're alongside the road somewhere in New Jersey, so your
Right.
cell phone would work as good as it could. So we appreciate well, I appreciate your using our materials at these NAACP conventions. And I want to
Absolutely. They've been vital.
I want to encourage you, because I'm telling you, you guys out there distributing my Alpha 21 and getting them shown and getting these cards out there, we're seeing African Americans come into the pro-life movement. I've been in this over 35 years. I can tell you we've never had participation by the African American community like we've seen in the last just 3 or 4 or 5 years. It has been amazing to watch.
Absolutely. And always remember, because we had to do it through grassroots, I had a discussion with a publicist out there. Why can't My Alpha 21 be on PBS and some of the public? And I said, I can tell you why, because they call out Carnegie and Mellon and Rockefeller because they support your public access.
Right.
So therefore, it's left up to us to do this. And it's exciting to me when a friend calls just recently and says, man, that is an awesome documentary. I had no idea. We got to talk. I got to do something. Okay. But I'm saying to myself, man, that's been out since 2009. and he's acting like it just hit the street. We
Well,
got to just keep doing it. It's going to get there. The Lord has ordained that we are the ones that carry it. This is social media. This is grassroots. Maybe he's forcing us to do what we're supposed to do. Go door to door.
right.
Be in the public square. Use your Facebooks, your emails. It can be done because anyone who sees it either is completely neutralized or is on our side. So that's the way it is.
Well, good. Well, you may remember, Clenard, we had that meeting here in Denton that you were at, and Johnny was here, and you were here. And one of the things that you guys told me was not to expect miracles overnight, that this thing would percolate in the black community for a number of years, and then it would eventually explode on the top. And I think
Yes.
I can see that's happening. It's percolated for years. Millions of people have seen it now. We've actually put out, 175,000? 175,000 DVDs. That doesn't count all the times it's been shown on television and how many people watch each DVD, but we know millions of people have watched it now.
And remember, Mark, nobody refutes it.
Isn't that interesting?
That's so awesome. No one takes issue with it. They're afraid of it.
Right.
So we have a weapon. We got to use all the weapons of our warfare. But your listeners need to know it was so well done, no one can say anything about it. So
They've tried.
They've tried.
They've tried.
But they failed.
They failed.
Well, thanks, Clenard. I appreciate your being with us, sir.
God bless.
Be careful on the roads now.
All right now.
Bye-bye, sir. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week. Good show, guys. Thanks for joining
Thank
us
you.
again.
You bet.
Stefan, we appreciate your being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next week.